Moira Raboisai. I'm going to tell you the story of my trip to Israel in depth. This is going to be a long video. I was supposed to start out my show like this. Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, oh, Yerushalayim, Horim Soviv la. I was gonna come out from the back, there was gonna be smoke, and the band was gonna be crazy. And that didn't happen because Hashem had other plans, and war doesn't care about me or my show. If you don't know who I am, I'm Ricky Rose. I'm a Yiddish singer, songwriter, entertainer, comedian, content creator. I grew up in Wilhelmsburg in the Satmar community, technically B'nai Yoel, but that's a different story for another time. Satmar ever believed that Israel should only be ours once Mashiach comes, and if we take it before, there will be consequences. And look at what's happening. He wasn't wrong, but we're here now already. It's kind of too late. So I never felt like a pull to go to Israel, and it's ironic because, I mean, I'm not exactly following the Satmar guidelines. I'm wearing ripped jeans, and yet somehow the disconnect of Israel was still there. People would always say, oh my God, Israel, and they talk about it like, wow, connection. When you go, you'll never want to come back. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. I'm comfortable here in America. I'm a Gulasi. I'm a diaspora Jew. And even after October 7 happened, people started connecting even more then, and I was like, maybe we should lay low and not be so proud and loud about being Jewish because we're still in Gulas. That mentality was still with me. Yes, I never was interested in going to Israel. Plus, I had a huge fear of flying. Really, really, really bad. It's not worth it for me to go on such a long flight to a place that I'm not even interested in going. Like, I'm more interested in going to Europe than going to Israel. So I never went. There's this rabbi from Hillel of Rockland, Rabbi Oliver, who's been bugging me to come to Israel for 3 years already. He's been like, Ricky, I want to be the one to take you to your first Israel trip. And I was always like, nah, I'm afraid of flying. I'm not feeling it. I'm not interested in Israel. Tziyoinam, blah, blah, blah. Tziyoinam, fui! So yeah, I ignored it. And then recently, I've been getting a lot of inquiries about overseas gigs because my music career has been taking off. And I'm like, I need to conquer this fear of flying. I have also a long-distance boyfriend in Florida, which made it helpful. I would go on a lot of trips back and forth from Florida, getting used to going on shorter flights and doing a lot of therapy, hypnotherapy, IFS therapy, tapping. I'm over there sitting on the plane, tapping my head, looking like a crazy person, crying and doing all the things. And slowly it's been getting easier and easier to go on flights, and I've been feeling very brave and strong for doing it. So when people would ask me to come do a gig overseas, I would give like outrageous prices and rates, so I knew nothing will come of it because I was just so afraid to go. And it's true, nothing came of it. And then I got an opportunity to perform in Poland in July, and it's going to be a big Chazunis concert, and I just couldn't say no. I was like, you know what, I have to conquer this fear for my career. I do everything for my career. So I said, you know what, let's do this gig. And then a few days later, the rabbi reached out to me and says, I'm doing another Israel trip, do you want to come? And I figured, you know what, this is a great way to practice for my Poland flight, even though it's a longer flight, but it's like, let me get used to it. It'll be a big group of people, it'll be okay. I told the rabbi, you know what, if you let me do a show in Israel, then I'm coming. Free flight to Israel, I get to do a show there. Shows are very costly, so usually if I'm putting on the show by myself, I can't afford the travel expenses plus putting on the show. So this is a great opportunity. So this is actually a volunteer birthright trip. It's not a regular birthright trip, so it's a little bit more lenient. It's not so packed, and the rabbi said it was okay, we could do a show. There's gonna be plenty of time. Gegangen! We book a show. I reach out to producer. I found a great producer, Yosef Gross, Hedgehog Entertainment. Thank you so much. Shout out to you. He did so much work on a show that we didn't even end up doing. I hope we get to work together in the future. And we book a show, we book a band, we book a venue, lighting, the whole, a videographer, the ganze Sache. We make a massive set list. I have Remy G write the music, all the top dogs. And I'm so excited for the show. I prepare myself for this big flight. I'm doing all my therapies. I got my hypnotherapy tape ready. Leading up to the flight, I was fine. I was excited about the trip and about the show, so I didn't really feel so much anxiety. But when I got onto that plane and I saw my seat, we didn't get to pick our seats. I saw my seat, I freaked out. I was doing the IFS therapy on myself, and that little girl inside me that was scared was freaking out. She wanted to get off that plane. She's like, we have to run. Like, we're in danger. This is very dangerous. We need to leave right now. In the past, I've ran off a flight like this before, but this time I'm like, I told this little girl, I said, I'm so sorry to be putting you through this, but we are not getting off this plane. We're staying here. We're going on this trip. You're so brave. You're such a brave little girl. You're gonna do this. We're gonna do it together. I'm gonna hold your hand. And she cried and she was upset and she was not happy. And I was there comforting her the whole flight. People on the flight helped me talk through it, and I was crying. It was just 11 hours of painful, just processing and crying and going through it. And then when we landed in Israel, I just felt overjoyed and I was like, oh my God, I've made it to Israel. Like, suddenly I just felt this feeling like as if I came home, and I've never felt like Israel was going to be my home or anything like that. I just felt very disconnected. But as soon as I landed, I already started feeling something. Maybe it was the being overwhelmed on the flight and then finally landing. But we got off the plane, immediately got greeted by a fan, actually a female soldier. She was like, oh my God, Ricky Rose, I love your videos. And I'm like, cool, okay. I'm already having paparazzi. What's going on? So we get on the bus and we're driving up north. It's like a long 3-hour drive and we see a rainbow and I'm like, oh my God, this is like insane. There's a rainbow. Part of me is like, oh my God, medaf chivatin, the Welt geht unter, there's a rainbow, Hashem Yishmar. But also the other part of me is like, wow, this is a really nice greeting to Israel. We get to our hotel up north, very close to the Lebanon border, and we have an initiation circle. Like, everyone in the group shares what their intention is of coming on this trip, and the rabbi, when he starts the circle, he says, so what made you still come on this trip despite what's happening in the world and possible war? And I was like, what? I don't watch the news, so I had no idea that. I thought the war was over, there was peace. I had no clue that there was talk of another war starting. If I would have known, I would have never come on this trip. My anxiety would not let me. So my nervous system is already so dysregulated from the flight. And when I hear this, I go into panic again. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck here. I hate Israel. This is what I think instantly. I hate it. I want to leave. I don't want to be here. I text my boyfriend and he's like, don't worry, babe. If there's anything happening, I'll get you a flight home. You'll be safe. Okay, I feel a little better. When we share, everybody shares their share, and when it comes to my turn, I say, listen, I don't watch the news. I don't want to hear anything about war unless there's like an immediate threat and you have to run to a bomb shelter. Please don't tell me about anything. I want to stay oblivious, delusional. I want to enjoy my trip. And the reason why I came on this trip is because I wanted to get a free flight so I can do a show here, because I have a lot of fans here and I've been getting a lot of messages from people to come do a show in Israel, and this was a great opportunity for that. And everybody was like, wow, thank you for your honesty. The next day, we go to Tzfas. Shraga Schmidler gives us a tour, great tour. And the streets of Tzfas, I was like, okay, now I'm starting to enjoy myself. I'm starting to feel a little bit of those things that people were saying that you're gonna feel in Israel. The streets are so ancient. I feel like I'm traveling back in time. It's just a very magical, mystical place. And just to know that it's so old and ancient and all these tzaddikim that live there and these spiritual people, and I'm like, okay, I'm really feeling spiritual part of me is really feeling it. We're going through the streets of Tzfas, we're singing together, we're dancing, it's beautiful, it's mamish, my ayin olam haba. Then we head to our volunteer shift of the day, painting a school bomb shelter. Let that sink in. After we were done, we went to check out, in Tzfas there's a cave. It's called the Sound Cave at Matsuda or something like that. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. The acoustics in there are insane. After that, we head to Miron. It's Zayin Udir, which is a special day to be in Miron because it's Moshe Rabbeinu's Yurtzat, and they say that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was reincarnated. He was a Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu, so it's a very special day to be there, and they have music there and dancing, and we're dancing and having such a good time. I feel right at home. One of my highlights of my trip is going to the Pshimis Kaivid. I feel like I connected a lot with the religious parts of Israel rather than the modern culture. Ironically, from Miron, we head to an army base. We're going to sing for soldiers. We get to the army base, and I'm like, there's these big tanks, and I'm like, oh my God, this is scary. Everybody has their guns on, and it's something I'm very uncomfortable around. It takes me a while to like warm up. And we have a barbecue with the soldiers. We sing with them, we dance with them, and then they ask me to sing to the soldiers. So I pick the 2 Hebrew songs that I know, and I struggle with the words, but I sing it anyway and show it. So that was very nice. I wasn't able to enjoy it as much as the rest of the day because it was late and I was very tired. And also seeing these soldiers, like 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, it made me feel like, oh, these poor babies fighting for their country. And then I asked one of them, like, are you not scared? And he's like, yeah, we are scared, but we do it anyway. Shout out to the soldiers who are scared and doing it anyway. I do the same when I go on a plane. Obviously it's not the same because I'm not fighting in wars or protecting my country, but I'm fighting for my tafkid music. So the next day is more chill. We volunteer at a food bank. We're packing food. Then we head to Yerushalayim, which was very exciting. My first time in Yerushalayim, never been there. My expectations are very high because everybody's talking about Yerushalayim, so I'm a little bit disappointed when I get there because I'm so tired and I'm not ready for this energy. Of course, we're in Yerushalayim for the first time. I'm going to see the Koisel, so it's a long walk, maybe like 35-40 minute walk. Freezing cold. We get to the Koisel and people say you're gonna have an experience or whatever, you're gonna feel something, and some people say you're gonna feel nothing. And I try not to set my expectations too high, but just on the walk there alone, it was so magical and so like ancient that I was already like getting in this zone. And when I got there and I went close up to the wall and then I just touched the wall and I just burst into tears. I feel this like very strong magnetic pull energy coming from this wall. I don't know if it's real or if it's all the stories you've been told from behind it and how significant this wall is, but whatever the case is, I'm feeling a lot of things. I say Shehechiyuni because it's my first time there. Actually, in Satmar, you're not allowed to go to the Koisel because they say that because the Tzionim took it over, there's only shtitzen the Tzionim. But I'm here and I'm feeling all these things. I'm davening for peace and I'm like, wow, this wall is very intense and a lot of wars also around all this. We want peace already and we want Mashiach or like this happy ending, this happily ever after. And I'm feeling all of these things. So I'm there for a little bit and then when it's time to go away, I see that all the women, they back away. Like they don't walk away. They don't turn around and walk away. They back away from the wall. So I do the same because I don't want to be the only person who doesn't do it. But then I ask my friend who's at the men's side, do the men do it? And he's like, no, most of the men don't do it. Like it's a Tamimas Digga woman thing. And I swear to myself, next time I'm coming back, I'm walking away. I'm walking with my bag. I'm not going to just follow blindly because everyone else is doing it. I get it. It's very holy. I had my experience. I felt it, you know. So I don't know how you feel about that. Maybe you're offended by me saying that. It's just the cynic inside me. I have parts, you know, again, IFS therapy. And the cynic inside me was like, what are you doing? Like making fun of me for backing away. And I'm like, I wanted to give her that moment of that rebelliousness of just, you know what? Turn around and walk away. But unfortunately, I never got to go back yet. That was Wednesday. The next day, they take us all the way south. We go and we volunteer in a school. We're planting flowers for the kids, and then we sing with the kids and we dance, and it's really nice. And it's very colorful, very diverse, which is something you don't see as often in New York. So many colorful Jews. Then they take us to all the October 7 places, the Chabad of Sderot and the police station over there that got attacked, and the Nova site, which was very heavy and intense, of course. Parents of one of the victims were talking to us and telling us the story, and it was a lot. We sang some songs for them. It was very heavy to see that. And I was not just thinking of the victims of October 7, but just everybody who died following the war. And so then we come back and it's Thursday night and we have Hillel of Rockland always hosts the Cholent and Chill. So we have the Cholent and Chill, but in Israel. And I'm so exhausted from this Nova excursion that I just crash and I say I can't go. Plus I have a show to rest up for. Sunday night is supposed to be my show. Motzei Shabbos is supposed to be my rehearsal. So I'm like, you know what? I need to save my energy and take it easy because I'm already feeling my body's going into overdrive and I don't want to get sick. So I make an early night, I go to sleep, and the next morning, Friday, we go volunteer in a hospital, Shaddai Tzedek, and I find some older patients who know Yiddish, and I sing to them in Yiddish, and it's beautiful. They cry, they're emotional, feeling nostalgic. It's just so cool that I get to do that, make people remember the songs that their grandparents used to sing to them, or songs from their childhood. It's just a very special gift that I get to do this, and I'm very grateful for this. And that's why I sing in Yiddish. When people ask me, why don't you just sing in English? I'm like, this is why I do this, because no one else is doing it, so I have to do it, and I'm good at it. After that, I go visit my aunt and my shiurim. Everybody goes to the shuk, But instead of going to the shuk, I put on a tichel and a long skirt, and I go visit my aunt in my shudim. Going to my shudim is another one of my big highlights of this trip. I felt like I was in a storybook. Those little streets with and then my aunt, she lives in like this complex that you have to walk up all these steps. It's called the Ingridische Hazard. Finally, I find her apartment and I walk in, and again, I feel like I'm walking through a time travel portal. The chandelier, the sfoodumshank, everything, it's so ancient. It's like insane. The kitchen, I'm like, oh my god, this is a storybook. And my aunt is the cutest thing. She's like asking me about my trip. She's asking me about my show, and she's like, about the show? And if she's asking, you know, she's open to hearing the truth. So I tell her yes. And she's like, Sean, אפשר das te zingen voor solche Männer, dat sollen sich kennen hier Chiva sein. Which was so sweet and open-minded of her, if you know where she's coming from. And then my cousin came over, and I've never met this cousin before, but we used to write letters to each other, you know, so we were pen pals. So it was cool to meet her and her kids, and she has Kanai Nahara, a lot of kids. So that was a very cool experience, and my aunt packed me little baggies of Homentaschen and apple, you know, like peeled up apples with the little pieces, and it's just so cute. And from there I went to the shuk. I didn't have time to go and change my clothing, so I went with my Hasidish clothing. Obviously I took off my tichel because I hate covering my hair. Of course, in the shuk I'm recognized by a lot of people, fans. They all come over to me, and it's so much fun. There's a guy with a guitar, and he recognizes me and he asks me to come and sing with him, and I take the mic and I sing, and people gather around. It becomes like a whole concert. And then I get the news that my show is sold out. And I'm like, yes, first sold out show in Israel. And a lot of people didn't even know that I was doing a show in Israel. They didn't even know I was there. That shows that I didn't even do that much marketing, and still it's sold out. People are begging me for tickets. Everybody's like, oh my god, it's sold out. How can I still get a ticket? And I have like 10 people I can put on my guest list, so I put a few people on. So the shuk is also a big highlight of my trip. Friday night, the group goes to the Koisel for Kabul Shabbos, and I'm supposed to join, but it's so cold outside. Also, I did not know it was so cold in Yerushalayim, and I've done so much walking to my shudim and the shuk and everything that I'm exhausted. And I know if I go to the Koisel tonight, I'm probably gonna get sick. I'm very sensitive. If I overexert my energy, I tend to get sick. I'm actually sick right now, kind of. I have a cold. I'm recovering from this trip. My body was like, okay, now you're home. Now we can crash. So I'm like, I need to be careful. So I take my rest, because my show is my most important part of my trip. I literally came on this trip only because of the show. I didn't want to even come. I came here because I want to give my fans a good show. So I take my rest. Everyone else goes to the Koisel. I have major FOMO, but I'm like, you know what? I got a show. I have a career I have to think of. I take it easy, and we have a very nice Shabbos meal after that. We have a grab bag. Everybody exchanges gifts. It's very sweet. We get to know each other a little better. After the meal, I go to this hangout that they have in Yerushalayim. I don't know what it's called. I think Bar Mashka or something like that. And I get there, and a lot of people recognize me, and the guy who runs it calls me up to the front, and I start leading a song. It was great. It was beautiful. It's just good to see spaces where people can come and sing and be themselves and have a good time. Shout out to Yoina for providing that space. Shabbos morning, I wake up at 6 a.m. to like the sound, you know, the Amber Alert. That's the only time I ever hear this sound, and I'm like, holy shit, somebody's been kidnapped. But I look at my phone, and I'm like, this is not a kidnapping. This is warning, missiles, I don't know, alarms. What is going on? Is this really happening? I thought I was going to get a warning, a chance to go home if something like this happens. So I check my emails, and I see that I got that same morning an email from a national tourist organization that I should go home. Wow, thank you so much. You're sending me an email 2 hours before the sirens go off. The girls that are my roommates in the hotel room are like, we have to get to the bomb shelter right away. So I grab my shoes and I run to the bomb shelter. I didn't even have time to panic because you had to run. But once I'm in the bomb shelter, I start panicking. There's literally war, there's bombs. Oh my god, my show. The rest of the day is just in and out of bomb shelters, and we keep hearing the booms. Like from far, you hear like boom, boom, boom after every siren. This is real. Like, this is war. This is really happening, and the Israelis are all so calm, and I'm like, that's not okay to live like this. So we have a Shabbos meal that day that we're supposed to go to, and we're like debating if we should go. In the end, we went. The meal was very nice couple, yummy food, and I'm just a nervous wreck. My nervous system is completely dysregulated. I'm crying, I'm freaking out. I'm worried about my show. From there, we go to visit a friend. Everybody's singing and just having a good time. And I'm just really, really sad. And all I keep thinking is, I hate Israel. So basically, the whole trip, I go from loving it to hating it to loving it to hating it. It's just like a love and hate relationship. And then Motzei Shabbos comes and I get the message, the show is canceled. And I'm very sad. But also like, there's a war. So like, what are you going to do? And then the rabbi calls me and is like, come back to the hotel right now. Birthright is evacuating us from Yerushalayim to the Dead Sea, and then we'll see where we'll go from there. If you want to stay in Yerushalayim, you have to opt out of the trip, and you give up your ticket on coming back home. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't afford a ticket back, so I have to go with the trip. Now there's really no chance of me rescheduling the show, and we pack our bags in 10 minutes, and we have to run, and somehow it feels familiar. I've ran away from places before. I'm sure my grandparents did it. We did it. It's not new to me. I pack up my bags, and we go to the Dead Sea. I start to calm down a little bit. It isn't as intense. You don't really hear the booms as much. So we're there for one night. We have a little kumsitz in one of the hotel rooms. We thought we were going to be at the Dead Sea Hotel for a while, but the next morning the rabbi's waking us up. We gotta run. Buses are taking us to Egypt, and from there we have a flight to Greece. So again, we pack up fast on the run. This seems to be a theme already at this point. Then we have a bus ride to Egypt. Beautiful sceneries, by the way, driving through Eilat. We get to Egypt. We wait in lines. The whole thing from Egypt till Greece, the whole thing was lines and waiting. I feel like that's what the whole experience was. And we even wrote a song about it in the airport. We were like, line, line, waiting in line just to get in another line. Wait, I wait all day just to get away, wait. Anyway, we're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and the rabbi says, don't worry, we have a charter flight, which means like all the birthright groups from all over the world who came to Israel now are together, and we're all going on one flight. At the border, we meet with all the other groups. Somehow we still missed the flight, even though it was a charter flight. Now we have to stay in Egypt for a night. Finally, we're on the bus after the border. Nobody knows what's happening, but they're not letting us off the bus. Now I started feeling claustrophobic again. I'm like, oh my God, we're getting kidnapped in a foreign country. This is it. They even at the border collected all our cash because you had to pay like a certain amount for like 2 hours. We wait. Finally, they got us a hotel, and we get to the hotel. And in the hotel lobby, we wait again to get our rooms because we are a few hundred people. We're like a bunch of different birthright groups from France, from Uruguay, from Ukraine, from America, from all over the place, which is really cool. We start singing, we take our guitars out, we're jamming, we're singing all these classic Jewish songs, and everybody joins in, and it's actually really, really nice. It's so weird that we're in Egypt, in Mitzrayim. A day before Purim, we get our rooms, and I tell the rabbi, you know what, tonight is supposed to be my show in Israel. Why don't we just do the show here? We have no sound system, we have nothing. We have a room with really bad acoustics, carpeted room. If you know sound, you know that's really, really bad. We do it anyway, without a sound system. I take out my guitar, I put on some makeup, put on a little cute outfit, and just give whoever wants a show. So they put out a flyer. They're like, Ricky Rose in Egypt for the very first time. And we have a little show. And there's belly dancers across the hall. So everybody wants to go to that. I get it. I'm not going to try to compete with belly dancers, but there are a few people that show up to the show. It was very nice. The next day in the morning, we head to the Taba, Egypt airport, where we wait again in lines, and that's when we write the song, waiting in line. Just as we wait in the line, for about 6 hours we waited, literally, just to check our bags. Finally, we get to the gate, and then we wait another hour, and then finally we get onto the flight. They make us go on a bus to get to the airplane, which is only like a few feet away for some reason, but protocol is protocol. And Egypt is interesting. You have to we had to sign our names into a book of some sort, very backdated, third world country, I guess. It's mamash hashud because it's such a beautiful country. There's like stray camels hanging out, stray goats, stray dogs. It's so beautiful. If they can, get their ducks in a row, they could be a really big tourist attraction. Finally, we get on the plane and we fly to Greece. We get there, it's at night, so now it's Purim Banacht, it's Purim night, and the rabbi gets one of the Chabad rabbis there to come and do a Megillah reading for us, and we have a little Purim party. We put on a costume, whoever has one, and we dance and we sing. The next day we're supposed to go in the afternoon, have a flight to Newark, and then the next morning we get woken up again. We're like, nope, you don't have all day, they changed the flights. You're going to Switzerland, and from there to Newark. So oitchu, we pack our bags quickly, we run to the airport, and then we fly on Purim. The whole day we're basically on a plane. We're going from Greece to Switzerland, from Switzerland to Newark, and finally we make it home. And I still have time. I run to a Purim party in New York, and Isaac Schoenfeld Chalent Purim party. Crazy adventure that we've been on. We got to be in 5 countries in 3 days. 2 of those countries are Mitzrayim and Yavon, Egypt and Greece, which is basically like all the Gulas we went through. We went through all the Gulas, and Gulas Mitzrayim, Gulas Yavon, and then Gulas Edom. Crazy. I felt like I wasn't just like hearing the Purim story, I was living it. And all that while the Purim story happened in Iran, which is the country that they're having a war with. It's just all so surreal. Like, this whole trip has been just living through everything that we read in the Torah, and in the, it's just wild experience to just be in all of those places at this time of the year. Even though my show was canceled, I have to say I do not regret going. And reflecting back, I'm thinking, yes, I fell in love with Israel. The propaganda worked. No, I didn't become a hardcore Tzioni, but I fell in love with the more like spiritual parts of it. Just really fell in love with it. It was a roller coaster. It was high highs and low lows. It feels like it's home. Yes, like you get there and everything is Jewish. Like everything is Jews. Yes, there are people who are not Jewish there, but it's like mainly Jewish. It's like a Jewish place. It's like you're going to Williamsburg, but not just Williamsburg is Jewish. The entire Williamsburg, plus the North Williamsburg, and everything is Jewish over there. If only they had more Yiddish, that would make me more happy. But I guess Yiddish is the Gulas language. That being said, even if it feels like it's our home, it doesn't feel like it's our home yet. It feels like it's our home under construction. Like they're still working on it. There's still threats. We're still in Gulas. They're still having war. It's still not completely safe. One of my videos that I posted, somebody got upset and wrote, people want to leave Israel when it's hard times. They only want to be here for the magic and they don't want to stick around for the hard times. And that's true. We don't. And that's why we're in Gulas. That's why we live in the Gulas. And we don't live there because we can't deal with living there in the hard times. And it's hard times everywhere, but I feel like it is a little bit more like, okay, this is our home, but it will be our home when Mashiach comes. It will really be our home. For now, it's nice. It is still our home, but it's like under a lot of construction. You don't know when the roof is going to fall over your head. So yes, I love Israel. I felt all the things people say I would feel. And even though I was there during war starting, it was still, I don't regret being there, going there, having these experiences. And I pray for everybody who lives there, who chooses to live there, despite all the wars and everything. I pray for their safety, and I pray for peace in the world, in the entire world. We should all just have peace and live peacefully, and imagine all the people living a life in peace. You may say that I'm a dreamer, oh, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. That's Mashiach energy. Shkoyach, thank you for listening to my story.